Hi, folks. Apologies for the audio quality on this, but we have just been to Cyan headquarters, and we wanted to get a little addendum recorded to our podcast as quickly as possible, just so we get our immediate thoughts out there. So, all four of us are here. Maris.
Esto.
Dolkin.
Sherry.
So, Cyan.
Oh my god.
We're still coming down from the experience, folks. It was so much fun.
Blown. Okay, and for those of you who were in the pool, whether I was going to faint, scream, or cry was the answer. So we found out, I just pooled up right in front of Rand, and he was just like, oh, so sweet. So he actually signed my book, and I got a photo. So it was one of those things, it was a moment, and it's one of those things I will never forget for the rest of my life. The cone hat was a hit.
Cone hat was a hit.
Yes, cone hat was a hit.
Rand Miller, sweetest guy in the world. You could tell he genuinely loves all the fans. There's this real sense of like kindness and gentleness that I felt from him.
So sincere.
We'll go through the specifics of what we went through today, but there's even a moment towards the end where the moderators are like, all right, only 2 people left. And Rand was like, no, just let them finish up. I want to hear them all.
Yeah.
And it was just really sweet to hear him say that. He's a sweet guy. We love him. Come on the show, Rand. We want you to come on the show.
Yeah, we've only harassed him about that, 6 times this weekend so far?
Hey, he's got a Cavern Today shirt. He will not forget us.
Yeah.
That's right. We gave him a Cavern Today shirt. That's right. And Sherry managed to get him the Cavern Today shirt before she even did the formal meet and greet with him. You were just that lightning quick.
Yeah, well, he passed by me, and I'm like, sir, this is from the staff of the Cavern Today. We wanted you to have this. Katie gave us your size, so here you go.
Oh.
And so...
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was one of those things. It was really quick. I was like, I'm quick, I'm fast, I'm a giant pain in the... But, it was one of those things that I wanted to make sure to drop it off to him as soon as possible, because there was a chance I could have dropped it, or I could have lost it, or something horrible could have happened. So I was like, okay, let's get this hot potato out of my hands and into Rand's, and he was just passing by. I was like, here, and he was like, what's this? And I'm like, this is for you. And he's like, oh, and he takes it. So it was really cool, and it was unforgettable.
Yeah. I just thought it was really funny following up behind you, Morris, in line. So I got to see you interacting with him, and I watched him hold up the shirt to you, all excited, like, look at this! I have a TCT shirt!
He was really happy. No, it was a moment of, and we'll walk through, I think, bit by bit through actually what the different things that we went to while we were out there today, but I guess immediately the first thing we want to talk about was meeting Rand, of course.
Yeah.
So I was trying to be
Well, it was also the first thing we did after the initial presentation.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Well,
Me and you
You
specifically.
me, yeah. So we were in 2 different groups, so...
But
They had us split up into a couple groups. Team Sunner.
Yes, we were Sunners.
Yep, Doc and I were Team Yatram.
Yep.
Team Artie O'Donnell, that's right.
Oh, it's a sweet little frog.
He's a cute... But, my meeting with Rand was... I was trying to be cool about it. I was like, I don't have a book. I don't have anything to sign. I'm just happy to be here, man. You know? And I just do a handshake and a picture. So I shake his hand, and I sort of look off to the left, like nod at Rand. And there's like a long pause. And then the staff is like, did you want a picture? And I was like, yeah, man, what do you think I'm staring at? So now you've made the moment awkward for me. I'm trying to be all cool and like, I don't want to take up too much of your time, you know. So I sort of walk away, but he turns to me and he's like, Patrick, wait. And I turn around and he shows me the TCT shirt. And that was like, oh my gosh, I felt, that was really adorable.
Yeah. I spent about 5 seconds with Rand. He stuck his hand out to shake my hand, and I instinctively went to take, and I'm like, oh, right, my hand is covered in bandages.
The stunt Dalkin
strikes
again.
So then I'm awkwardly like, I don't want to make Rand shake my bandage. So I was like, what do I do? I panicked, and then I opened my arms for a hug, and Rand being Rand didn't even miss a beat, just full-on hug.
Amazing.
The dude,
Amazing.
nicest guy in the world.
Nicest guy.
And, I guess actually that really sums up my interaction with Rand. I'm always at a loss for words when I'm with the guy because I don't know what to say. Like,
Yeah.
When I had the opportunity to speak with Rand, I had my book in my hands. Like I felt 10 inches tall, right? Because they had us all queuing up to the double door. Can't proceed forward until they let you go forward. And so I'm standing there, sequestered from the man from the man in front of me and Sherry behind me, and I'm just there with my security book now in my hands, and I see Rawa sitting there, and I see Rand sitting there. I was like, oh my god, I'm about to meet Rand.
Sheer panic.
I don't know what to do. They're like, you can come forward now. I was like, okay, now I am right in front of them. What am I going to do? Okay, well, I guess time to go on through. I was like, all right, start turning pages, and I just hand the book to him with the title page on it. It's like, would you please? And he said, oh, absolutely. And as he was signing his name, I was like, I'm with the Cavern today. I would just like to let you know, just in case it's not clear that because I'm wearing this Cavern Today t-shirt, we would love to have you on the show. And he was like, yes, I've spoken to 2 other people today already. I've spoken to 2 other people today already. We're going to make it happen. I was like, let's make it happen, man.
Yeah. As I was leaving, I was following up with, again, right after you, Patrick. And, because I didn't know what to say, and I didn't want to hog him, not knowing what to say, because there's this huge line of people all wanting to meet him. There's so many first-time attendees this year.
This is actually the most people who have ever been at a Mysterium, which there was, 250, 300?
More. There's 250 people signed up for this, but more people actually showed up to the convention center, right?
250 was the max attendance to go to the Cyan tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's 300 people here, though.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what the actual total attendance was, but yeah. So they were selling additional tickets for people who still wanted to come to Mysterium, but they just weren't able to guarantee a sign. So they had the standby list, of course. So, but yeah. So anyway, so I'm trying not to hog Rand, and so I'm just like, we'll see you on the show, and then I was immediately after, I'm like, oh my god, I hope I didn't come across super aggro.
Okay, so after Ralphie went, because it was one of those things where I was suddenly in the middle of the motion picture A Christmas Story, and I was the kid who has the scarf wrapped all around his head and he can't put his arms down, right? And I'm just like, hi. And the first thing I say, I reach out, shake his hand, and go, hi, I'm Sherry from the Cavern Today. Just could not think of anything else to say. I was just like, this whole universe has changed my life. And, there's stuff that I said that I don't want to disclose here. But it was very much the thank you for saving my life. And, it was a really big moment. And, of course, 4th time's the charm. We'd really love to see you on the show. And he goes, let's make it happen.
Yes.
And I'm just like, hi, Mr. Miller. And I called him Mr. Miller. I didn't even say Rand. And because when I handed him his shirt, it had on with big blue Sharpie marker, Rand, real big on it. But anyway, and so it was very, I felt like the 2 kids from A Christmas Story, because Esto grabs me right after, and I'm just like, Rand. I literally felt like I was in the middle of meeting the Beatles, and it was like Rand was John, Paul, George, and Ringo all in one body, and I was just like, So it was really, I really did. I felt like Ralphie's kid brother. I cannot think of his name right now. But I know one of you listeners have seen A Christmas Story. They know Ralphie, and they know the little brother. Remind us who the little brother is. Anyway,
I can't remember the name either.
Exactly.
So, aside from meeting Rand, of course, which was, I guess, some of our biggest highlight.
Yeah, well,
Let's talk about
I've met the man 3 times now. Like, this was my
have,
third time, and still, I'm acting exactly like Sherry. Like,
Got nothing. You literally look at the man and go, got nothing.
yeah, I'm standing there like, oh my god, I'm standing right in front of Rand Miller.
But,
See you on the show.
Bye!
yeah, as you're walking, going, I love you. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it is just insane. So
Yeah, well, that was funny
it is
too. Like, I was catching up with you at the end there with
Yes.
Rawa.
Rawa.
And I wanted to stick around and chat with Rawa for a second too,
Yes.
but like they were ushering us out towards the
Yes.
photo of the bus and everything.
we were gonna miss the bus.
Hi Rawa, bye Rawa, I love you.
You listeners, you have to understand, there were so many people here for this visit that they kind of had to herd us like sheep the whole time, which meant that when we met Rand, it was very much like, "Hi, Rand, photo, sign quick. Okay, bye." Like, we're being pulled away.
That's a maximum number of seconds we could be with them, right?
Yeah.
It
It was something
like
like-
Well, so
15 seconds.
about 75 people per group,
Yeah.
about 45 minutes per group. So
Ergo.
it was very, very tight. Which again, that was why I panicked. I was like, see you on the show, bye!
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
it was.
And then I immediately turned into the bathroom because
Oh my god, I remember that. That was Actually, I did have a funny memory of. I remember right before Rand started doing the signings, I was like, I wonder if I could run to the bathroom real quick before we start doing. So I run away, and then Rand's just sitting there because for some reason they put Rand's little signing thing right in front of where the entrance to the men's room was. I don't know why.
I think it was just because it was right outside the auditorium.
Yeah, I guess that's what. So I pass right by him, and I'm just sort of like pretending not to be like, "Oh, Rand's right there," and I'm just like, "Okay, don't." Yeah, he's right there.
Yeah.
Don't freak out!
But I overhear something that makes me laugh really hard when I think about it. Where he's like eating a sandwich, he's trying to get his like lunch done quickly, and he's like, "I got grease all in my hands now. I'm gonna get everybody's stuff dirty." Which I couldn't help but chuckle at. That was funny.
Nicest guy on the planet. What was
Yeah.
he doing? He's eating a sandwich. What is his concern? Oh man, I'm gonna get schmutz all over everybody's stuff.
Yeah. But yeah.
His stuff he worked very hard to create. So I would want, if it were my own stuff that was passing through fan hands, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not gonna get the schmutz all over that. No, it's like,
I'm just
I get it.
imagining somebody going, "Oh my god, it's Rand's greasy fingerprint on the front of my."
Somebody would
Look at
bronze
my dress.
that, right? Don't even. Yeah.
Will increase the value.
So, apart from the Rand meet and greet, let's sort of walk through a rough chronological timeline of actually what we did while we were there, because we saw and heard a bunch of really interesting stuff. So we first arrived by bus.
Yeah, we
Yes.
all
Big old
took
bus.
we all took the maglev.
The that's right.
Yes,
Yes,
it's
I do
maglev.
have a maglev ticket.
It was the Alpha and Omega bus, which is funny to me because I am a person of non-religion. So yeah, that was automatically funny
And
to me.
yet you got a hug, a signature, and a photo with God.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like, but in this case, I remember I said, at the show yesterday that, you should never meet your heroes. In this case, yes, you want to meet this hero because he is truly heroic in
The
that.
real deal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if Superman was a person, he would be Rand Miller. So, Chuck Norris couldn't even beat Rand Miller.
Yeah. No, just total.
That's
sweet,
just
yeah.
no.
So the first thing we do is we go into sort of their sort of makeshift auditorium. I won't go into the logistics of their campus, but I will just say it's really beautiful over there. But we go into sort of their makeshift auditorium that they have set up for us. Apparently, most amount of people that they've ever had coming to this trip before, which is so cool. We're so back, baby. But anyway, so we start off with who is it?
Hannah and Eric AA.
Hannah and Eric AA, right? Yeah, and they, I guess, gave us their basic State of the Union, or State of Mist, State of Cyan.
State of Cyan.
Yeah. Now I know we had some notes
Yes,
about that.
would be me. And I literally, because, guys, I have a Samsung S22 Ultra, so I am like the Samsung Note girl. So I have my stylus out and I am writing notes 26 pages worth. Okay, so Hannah started out with telling everybody that they had an internal poll, and everyone on the Cyan staff, their favorite Myst game is Riven. And when they said that, I'm like, my heart broke a little bit because, we're from Cavern. So it's just like, oh, fine, if you want to, praise Gen. And praise Gen was like a feature of this weekend.
For some reason, they kept it going.
Enough of them that picked Myst 3 for it to be notable.
Yes. But anyway, Hannah and Eric, they did tease us with some new stuff. They were talking about new stuff that was smaller and more feasible. And more from the Dunnyverse, which is it's giving Atris and family a rest so they can go have therapy and get the proper psychiatric care.
Mm-hmm. That family needs therapy.
Yeah, that family definitely needs some therapy. But anyway, it's using the technology and the actual universe that, taking the Dunnyverse and making new games from it. What they were talking about was like the new Star Wars and how they had...
Bug Chucker 2.
Bug Chucker 2, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, not a Myst 6 per se, because I think we all agree that story is like done as far as like done. But
they're in therapy.
But they were saying, we have this IP, we have this huge universe of like infinite stories that we could tell in it. Right. And it's like having this... I think Eric said this like beautiful car that's just sort of sitting in your garage. Let's take it out for a drive. And I totally agree with that. If that means, like he said, a different art style, whatever it takes for them to be able to deliver something that's sort of reasonable and smaller scale, whatever. That's totally fine. Experiment with it. But yeah, for God's sake, you have this wonderful IP. Let's do something with it.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
And then after that, they did mention my favorite artist in the Myst universe. Sorry, Tweak, I adore you and your art, but Claire Schumla Hummel was here this weekend, and just Google, see you on the other side, and you will see her artwork. Go to DeviantArt. And it's like just, it blows my mind every time. But they were talking about creating a bestiary. Rills, if you're out there, brother, the Dunny Zoological Society, get on the stick, brother, because she gonna be drawing some animals, the bestiary of the Myst universe.
They were saying it would make sense to hire her, and that's we love to hear that. That Cyan appreciates their fan community enough that they're like, look, there's talent there.
Recognition. We love to see it.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, Mike Ando got up. Now, it's Riam, I think they called him.
Plus, yes.
Yeah, Riam Plus. He got up and he gave a demonstration of the endotrope. Now, this is like what was that called?
Zoetrope.
A zoetrope. And he took 2 tablets, put them back to back, and then spun them, basically. And he created the imager from Gen's office in Riven. Most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. That was like, what? So, literally, he got to patent it.
Yeah.
He took something from the Myst universe and he could patent it.
Yeah, we got to see brand new technology unveiled for the first time.
I feel like the description we've given it so far undersells what we saw.
Truth in that.
So just to emphasize the incredibleness, doesn't matter what angle at which you are looking at this object, everyone sees the same image.
Yes.
Looking at them
from a 360 degree.
It was amazing. I mean, we had examples of Princess Leia saying redacted text for copyright. Disney, are you listening? Are you ready to pay for this technology?
Yes.
Something about the difference between a hologram and holograph, which I do not know the difference between those. For the record,
we're going to be studying that for the future, folks.
Sounded like an open challenge from
exactly.
Come fight me on this, but know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
exactly.
I know that when I saw Riam's thing on the schedule, I was like, "What is this going to be?" And
it's the thing.
Listen, I will admit my socks. Off they were knocked. They were. Off they went. My socks were knocked off. It was very, very, very impressive. And apparently with a lot of possible, implications.
Let's not forget the contribution by Moiety Jean.
Thank you. Yes, Jean, we love you.
Jean was a Gen priest.
I totally fangirled out in front of her.
That was pretty incredible.
Come back to the show, Jean. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I just totally fangirled out in front of her because, you know, Moichi Jean, the Barrow War, you guys, if you were there, you know what I'm talking about. Barrow flying all over the place, and there she is, like, giving a play-by-play from, like, under Karath Sarge, and I'm just like, oh my god, I want to be like her when I grow up. And then she was walking around with a beard today.
Yeah.
And
She looked amazing.
Yes, right?
It was a good
And then
fit,
Riam
yeah.
was dressed up as Gen.
Summertime game.
Summertime
Gen.
That's right, because he had a little bit of
His
leg
Gen with
action,
shorts.
bow, chicka, wow, wow.
Gen
I
with
mean,
shorts.
he was like, yeah.
But it was one of the best
Excuse me.
Gen cosplays I've ever seen.
It
by the
was.
way.
I mean,
Also-
having seen the actual costume, the accuracy was
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
Riven Chan did
How
the
long-
costume, didn't she?
Riven Chan.
How long did it take for somebody to draw Gen dabbing after that happened on stage?
It was like 5 minutes. And it's so funny. So there's a moment where they dab as like a bit, and within like 10 minutes, somebody in the community has already drawn a little cartoon of it. Which, again, getting back to my theme of we are so bad. The fact that there's enough passion in the community where that kind of output is happening that quickly
Yeah.
makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I feel
Yes.
like
Oh, yeah.
there's a community here that's full of a lot of passion.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
That was unforgettable.
And then, of course, in sort of two separate installments, because Hannah and Eric had talked about this a little bit, but also Rand and Richard Vanderwind were there, and both gave us two different perspectives of their upcoming work on Riven. And
Yeah.
needless to say, I'm surprised, but very impressed with what we've seen so far. It's not going to be a straight up exact recreation. They've decided to take the opportunity to say, what are some other sort of world building and storytelling things that we can do? And we've been really impressed with that so far. Another really cool thing that we saw while they were there was the Video Game History Foundation.
They have digitized the entire Cyan archive.
From the
we're-
vault.
From the vault. So we are going to be able to see digitally all of the behind the scenes stuff, all of the documentaries.
Yeah.
Later
So
this
yeah.
year.
So what they
Later this
explained,
year.
what they explained is that what they do, they don't archive video games. There's lots of organizations and individual collectors and whatnot out there already that do that, which is great. That's fantastic. I think it's important to archive that history. But what they do, I think, is also very important. They archive the materials and process behind those games. And as they pointed out during the presentation, that's stuff that very often gets lost almost immediately.
Yeah.
So the fact that Cyan had so much stuff.
They had
Yeah,
a basement
it's-
apparently just full of tapes. Just overflowing with
They
tapes.
didn't even know what they had.
And it would be crazy if somebody decided to digitize all those, and then they did. And that's incredible.
Gen bloopers.
Again,
They gave
we're
us
not ready.
they gave us a little taste of some of the behind the stuff scenes from Riven, which was John Kest as again trying to do the line after you refuse the book for the first time and he tries to leave.
The work I'm doing is quite demanding.
But
just hearing a raspberry just suddenly come out of Gen's face.
to see, because I already loved that actor so much, but to see the sort of amount of levity that he brought to
Yes,
that
yeah.
too
Oh, it
was-
was fantastic.
It was like watching Charles dance in the Game of Thrones bloopers.
yes, it's exactly like that.
it was. I mean, if they were ever going to recast Gen, please get Charles Dance. I mean,
That's
come
what
on.
I would say.
He was it would be perfect. But you should have seen him. He was just cursing, and then he'd go out the door, and then suddenly,
Oh
from
my
in the
God.
distance, he comes around the door, and like magically from outside, because there is no more wall, because it's a blue screen. And so he comes walking back up, but he looks little bitty tiny. He's walking back up, and I mean, I just sat there, and I'm just like, wow,
My
okay,
favorite-
number one dad of the year now.
It made me so happy, genuinely, like, it's so happy.
My favorite moment from all of that was seeing him go through the entire take, approach the door, open it, close it behind him, There's like 2 seconds of silence. They like, forgot the goggles. Forgot the goggles.
Oh God, yes!
He forgot. The suggestion being that he forgot the goggles a couple times.
Yeah.
The switch will reset itself once you link from here. Goggles. Okay.
And it's like, that was great, but you forgot the goggles. And he's like, you
No.
You could hear the damn it going through his head. He was like, damn it.
Yeah.
What was that one line where he got like a quarter of the way into it, and then he was just like, "What am I even saying right now?"
The switch will reset itself from here. What?
And it took him, I think they said 14 tries, because it's take 14.
A lot of raspberries.
It's like,
The switch will reset itself once you link from here. Once you link... Okay. The switch will reset itself once you link? Well, the switch will reset itself once you... The switch will reset itself once you...
And this was the first time anybody had seen this outside of Cyan ever. And we had a lot of opportunities today to see things that had never been seen before. So, I waited 20 years to come to Mysterium, worth every penny. So if you can, definitely, put it on your bucket list. Because this is something you want to do. Because, on top of that, should we tell them about the book? The Mysterium Book of Atris that is only available to the people
Oh my God.
who went to Mysterium. They're $100 a piece, good gods. But the whole point is that we got access, and we're the only ones who can get these books. It's the Book of Atris, signed by Rand Miller.
so as we discussed on the last show, they have been working on revisions to the books. This is that revision of Book of Atris, but this is a special edition print that was only made for Mysterium and is going to be signed by Rand. So I just filled out my form like an hour or so ago. I'm very excited to get that. That'll be really my one goodie from this.
So there will be a printing run after that will still have the revisions in it. It just won't be the Mysterium exclusive edition. I'm very interested to see what is different.
Yes.
Who's going to sit side by side?
The language that was used today, a lot of discussion of updating things to include things that we have learned since. So that makes me wonder. That really does make me wonder what we're going to find, changes we'll find in the Book of Atris, things that we may end up seeing in the future. It's in the Book of Tiana. Book of Denis was mentioned specifically later on during the formal Q&A session as to there being some weirdness, particularly in the third act of that story, and how they may be addressing that in the future.
Now, don't forget that Hannah and Eric, they did mention that Richard van der Wen is directing this latest iteration of Riven. He is back, and it's him and Rand in the forefront. And Rand said something that was interesting to me. He says, Riven is real, with new discoveries and more new archaeological research in New Mexico, studying wark bones. And they even brought out a rusty carving with, what is that stuff called?
Artifact.
This was
our
the big
first look at allegedly Garo Hefti, though it is entirely possible that this is the Gen copy pasta, essentially, of what he thought was Garo Hefti.
I can't believe Gen used ChatGPT to make that.
Let's see, but
Basically right.
No, that's not true. I can completely believe that Gen used ChatGPT
But this
to make
is a wild thing, because this is one of the biggest things in the lore that Cyan has never been sort of comfortable with fully showing, and the fact that they're willing to pull back the curtain on even that 30 years later.
But the DRC,
we are so back.
Can we back this up for a second, though? Okay, because before that reveal happened, so Rand comes in to the room
with that
with a wagon. It's a freaking like radio flyer or whatever, like low, just regular 4-wheel wagon with something sandwiched between a bunch of just scrap cardboard to keep it hidden. And he's going along, is refusing to let anybody even help him with the thing. And so then he pulls it up and then gets ready for the presentation and everything. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to show you guys the thing now. And so then he grabs it, and he's clearly having trouble. It's like super heavy.
Yeah, and his wife is in the background, and he's like, yeah, my wife's going to yell at me for holding up this very heavy object. And she goes, yes, I will. Yeah. And it was just one of those things. Mrs. Miller was in the house, and I spoke to her, and she was like, call me Robin. And I'm like, okay, Mrs. Miller. It was one of those, it was one of those things. It was massive respect. But keep going, Dalton.
So I got super excited the second that he actually held this thing up, because he finally he gets it tilted up behind the table so he can grab it before anyone sees it, and then hefts it up onto above the presentation table so that everyone can see it. And I'm staring at him like, oh my god, that's Gara Hefty. And then he goes to this explanation of it. It's like, oh my god, it actually is!
Yeah. It's... And I'm sitting there going, who's a what, huh? Because, I'm late. So, I'm late coming to the Mist Universe. But, they're teaching me Garo Hefty, and I'm just like, Hefty sack who? And so it was one of those things that, it needs translation.
The great words. It's
yes.
The translation.
Okay. Thank you. It's the great words. But, the point is that, I looked at it in complete mystery. You immediately, Esto, sent it off. Yeah, exactly. You send it off to a friend for translation.
Oh, yes, Arte, if you're listening to this, by now I can see that you have seen this picture and you are in just as much awe of this as I am. I am hoping to get a full analysis of this from you, because I can make out a couple of characters on this thing, but I am just overwhelmed by what I'm looking at, and I would love to have an expert's opinion on exactly what we are looking at here.
But before our fans listening out there get upset at me for calling it a Garo Hefty, yes, I know Garo Hefty is the plural form. Okay?
Garohev.
I'm just getting excited. Yes, thank you, Esther.
I mean, there could be multiple words in this thing.
My understanding, I could be wrong, my understanding is one circle is one word. Mm-hmm. I don't know that for sure.
There are some interesting similarities. We were looking at this after and said, there are a lot of similarities we see here between this and Yisha's name as it's presented to us.
Yeah, we were talking about that
journey.
too.
The way the characters are overlaid over each other, but this is infinitely more complex than that.
Yeah.
Massively. Like, if Yisha's name were the Hobbit, this is the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. But that alone, it all sort of comes into Richard Vanderwen. We're talking about, again, the philosophy that they're having behind the kind of changes that they're making to Riven, and it's really fascinating the way they want to explore a little bit more, like sort of the relationship between Gen and the villagers. One example that he gave was that it should feel really obvious when something is something the indigenous population built, and when it's like something that I almost said Ganon. When something that Gen has imposed, or created on them. And he said that one thing they wanted to do is make sure that there was much clearer visual distinction between that, which I think is interesting. But even just a lot of other things, they showed us a lot of new, we saw their updated concept for the prison island, and you can see the ruins of an old maglev station next to it, which is such a cool detail.
It is so good.
Like, of course there would have been one of those before the island broke up. That's so cool. That's awesome. Stuff like that just got me really excited. The door can be like, oh, of course.
Which can bring us to that kind of ties into what we saw towards the end of Hannah and Eric's presentation.
Exactly.
Where we saw a demonstration of Boiler Island in the current in the current build for Riven. It's gorgeous. The greatest compliment I could give. It looks exactly how I remember it, except. There are a couple differences.
Yes.
Right?
Not only does it
Well,
look almost exactly like Riven should look, but brought to life, but there's an important change that I think, as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant."
Yeah.
Which is the cliff face blocking Gen's lab is no longer there. So if you're a new player and you arrive on the island, you're going to be able to see the lab right away, which sort of seeds the idea in your head of, oh, I should figure out how to go there, at least in the back of your mind, which I just think that's so cool.
What I thought was really interesting and cool is they mentioned that even though a lot of the game is still gray box, mechanically, like the game functions, like it is internally playable from start to finish. You can, you can tweak the knobs, you can pull the levers, you can move the sliders. And
Yeah, but they, I have in my notes that Richard Vanderwent, he was, because his favorite game is Riven. And so he said the backstory now, because Gen lives in his head, and so the backstory is a lot more intricate now. And they're not going to be doing this with live action. And because Rand was talking about the uncanny valley and how the tools are changing so much that it's one of those things that they're not going to be going back to live action. So, take that as you will, but there's going to be some, live action just isn't feasible anymore.
Metahumans.
Yeah, and like we discussed on the last pod, the metahumans, it's a great step. The technology's great. They look great. Rand sort of alluded to the fact that he's aware that the human models in the Mist VR were not super popular.
It was
I
an
think the
experiment.
exact
Yeah, it's an experiment, yes.
Yeah, it was an experiment. I think the other word for word was it was a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as the human models stick to the quality in Firmament or better, that's fine for me,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
The important thing is the storytelling,
He also mentioned, Rand, word for word, Riven is a rebuild from scratch. They have excavated models. They are thinking about the deeper things, and the deeper things are the ones that are the most important. And oh, by the way, for those of you who were thinking about Easter eggs from Riven, the question did pop up to Rand. He replied, "Ask Rawa." So there was that, and there were questions about if this was going to further expand on Gen's fate,
Maybe.
as it were, possibly, maybe. And so there were some. My notes get into the Q&A from here out, but they were very, very. They were very standing on the concept that this is from scratch, but we already know the story. They're going to take us in directions that we haven't thought of yet. And they want to get into that deeper, more rich, lush storytelling. Because we have the bare bones, but now it's going to get filled out.
Something I thought was really interesting was when he mentioned the moiety. He said that he specifically mentioned, as we've gone into the research, we found that they were not just one people. They were multiples. There were multitudes of different people having come together against Gen. Which is really fascinating from an anthropological point of view. I'm really interested to see what we can glean from that culture, whether we see
those
that
cultures,
from whether we see that in journal entries. We had such a fleeting experience with the moiety in the original. We take a bullet, we wake up, we're in prison. We can kind of peek outside and see this the hive, as it were, and kind of get glimpses and shadows of how they live their lives. But that was it. And I would just love to be able to spend a little bit more time with them, and to be able to to hear their language, to see how they live, and we may get that chance.
Yeah, arguably there could also be something to be said for that being as limited as possible, where it's that makes it more like a sense of intrigue. But
Something Rand said to that effect
made me really curious, which was that he stressed that they really want this to feel like basically as satisfying for returning players as it will be for new players. And I kind of wonder if, you know how in Myst there was if you're a returning player, you turn the puzzle randomizer on. I wonder if we're going to be looking at a possibly expanded version of that, where if you're a new player, it'll kind of give you something closer to the base version of the game. If you're a returning player, the scope will be like a little bit bigger.
Instead of a wallflower puzzle, now it's Gemodat.
Yeah, and
exactly.
it's literally, Raw was powers of 10.
discourse for out there, you guys. Is it Gemodat or Gemodat?
Oh, GIF versus GIF.
Yeah.
Here we are again.
Oh, no.
Okay, moving on.
But anyway, no, but, really what we're thinking about is Raw was powers of 10. And when I saw him today and I talked to him, I actually told him, I said, I actually did this in a paper in college, talking about your powers of 10, that sometimes we can get so focused in on one thing, we're missing the larger picture. Well, Cyan's going to be drawing the larger picture. Now, you can zoom in on the old stuff if you want, but this is a chance for you to get more fleshed out with this environment, more backstory, more archaeology, more rules, animals, everything.
The last thing I want to say about the Riven remake, based on what we've seen so far, is if you told me that, Cyan is going to change a whole bunch of stuff in Riven without any other context, I would have been nervous. But I've seen the way they talk about this, and I've seen the logic that they're putting into this, and the care that they're putting into this, and they could have very easily just very quickly made a direct remake with, no adjustments, just as like to make a quick buck. But there's clearly so much passion going into this project from their standpoint.
It did sound like they might have been hinting at that. If you remember, in Hannah and Eric's presentation, we had Myst, Riven. At one point, they said something about more news about Riven coming out, not the remake. They were specific; it was Riven news, but not remake news.
That was the biggest question mark for me.
That could mean that we're getting upscale of the Riven that we all know and love.
They said there's more news to be expected about original Riven.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
A quote, an exact quote, or at least nearly exact, because now that I've just said exact quote, I'm bound to misquote it a little bit. It's on the stream if you actually want to go back and listen to it. But pretty close to it was, we are not leaving the original Riven alone. So what exactly that means, we don't know. However, I do think like an upscale or something to that effect is probably very likely. I don't think Cyan is going to necessarily go back and like redo the entire original game. Like that's why they're doing the new one, right?
But I'm curious to see what
like
that
an
means.
upscaled, slideshow Riven, I think would also be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Or maybe do they mean that there is a mode in the new one where, you
Right, or that, yeah.
Who knows,
which was something I was talking about with somebody else. Or was it, did you bring it up? Somebody else I was hanging out with at Cyan brought up that point, whereas doing like they did in Monkey Island, where you can swap between real-time 3D and slideshow.
I always
Myst
wish
has that as well. Different navigation modes you can do.
Monkey U. That's I think the Monkey Island one is a little bit more like actually going into the the slideshow and
card mode.
It's so there's two big games I can think of that do that style where you press a key and it fully switches back to the old game. One is Monkey Island special edition, and then also the Halo remasters.
Yeah.
1 and 2 remastered.
I still
you press a
have to finish
button,
that.
it swaps back to the and I wish that they had done that in the new Myst, but I totally get why that wasn't. It's fine. And that would have been cool though.
Yeah, it would have been cool.
Yeah.
Just a couple more things from my notes. Just so you know, somebody asked Rand who Gen's favorite grandchild would be. The answer is Cirrus.
Which I suspected.
Who else would it be?
It's the family resemblance.
Yeah. Also, they asked Richard Vanderwend if there was going to be this edition of Riven, if it's going to have more insight into the Rivenese. And he said, no, there's going to be more insight into Gen than the Rivenese. So we're going to, I hope they don't give Gen the Maleficent treatment. Please no.
I don't think they're going to do that.
But the whole thing Rand said is that we are drawn into reality. And the whole thing is that in their minds, Riven is real. It is a real place with real people.
Yeah, they went to New Mexico. They got that giant hunk of iron.
Unearthing the work bones and
This was something that actually surprised me. Going all the way back to the original Mist, all the tie-in materials, it all phrases it like, in our research into this, that we've uncovered these documents from whatever.
He kept going back to the documents.
I always thought that was just like a fun bit that they did. I was like, okay, that's cute, the real version of it. But even in person, he's still keeping the facade up of, no, this is a game that we're making based on research that we're doing. They insist on talking about this as though it were a real thing.
I know what you're talking about. It is real.
I know, but like
you saw the Garo head.
But like as both an in-character thing and also a philosophy as far as this exists somewhere and we're trying our best to create it, it's just a really interesting way to go about trying to design a world, thinking that this exists and we're trying to create it.
Sometimes that's the only thing that keeps me sane. And so, it's one of those things. The Dunnyverse is getting bigger. It's expanding.
I'm excited.
Which, they use the Star Wars axiom, we could see, something like Andor or the Bad Batch or, in those different directions. And, it's one of those things, we have the technology.
The Adventures of John Lofton Fighting Branch.
Oh, no, it was really funny, the Dunny dating app. I was like, no, there's not be the Dunny dating app.
Do it.
Yeah, but they were kicking all kinds of things around. Eric and Hannah were talking about, smaller games, smaller little bitty stories that are not so immersive. But then they said, we're still going to go with the big immersive stuff. But, sometimes we just want to do something small that's going to give us a chance to taste the technology and just be a little bit of add-on and just brick by brick building up this universe.
The wanting to branch out into doing different types of experiences and whatnot, because they didn't mention this during the presentation. But I think it's, at least they didn't explicitly mention it during the presentation, but basically what they said was, we want to tell new stories in the Dunnyverse, and we understand that telling different kinds of stories sometimes requires a different kind of approach.
Yes.
And I think that's very indicative of one of my absolute favorite things about Cyan is they aren't afraid to change things up when they realize, hey, what we've been doing isn't going to work for this. We want to try something new. We want to experiment and explore, and that's so hard to find.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But
they're nimble. They're agile in their thinking.
Yeah.
And that agility is so important in the game space in this day and age. Because, they were talking about Rand's favorite shooter, for goodness sake. What is the name of that? Alex? Something?
Half-Life
Alex. So good.
Yeah.
Half-Life Alex being a huge inspiration for the work that they've been doing lately.
Yeah, and that's recent. So the fact that,
Half-Life Alex is, for those of you who may not be super familiar, it is a VR experience that was created by Valve that takes place in the Half-Life universe. And because it's made for VR, it is made to be what at least Valve thinks a AAA VR shooter title should be. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, they knocked it out of the park. And I love that Rand and Cyan, I love that they've picked up on that and go, yeah, we want to make AAA VR games too. And especially because it's Alex came out and then we haven't really seen a lot of other companies going, we want to try to make a AAA VR game too.
Not on that scale.
And I mean, not saying Cyan is perfect either. They make mistakes, but that's what I love about them. They are willing to make mistakes. And then they learn from them.
Learning experience.
Yes. So, it was it's just worth the money next time. When next time it's Cyan in Spokane, get on the plane. Do not argue, don't stop, don't pass go, don't click $200. Make sure that you are saving up from the moment they announce it.
I'm going to start saving now.
Yes. And I mean, 2 years worth of savings. So that way you can just posh it out and do what you need to do, but do it.
It's worth it alone just to see, because of course, in addition to all the presentations that we got, was of course the tour of the Cyan building itself, which half of it is basically a museum.
Oh my god.
Of all the props, the original props that were used by the actors in the FMVs and that they scanned for stuff, and it's a treasure trove there. Folks.
Listen, you guys and our listeners, don't tell anybody else. It's just a secret between us and all of you. I actually spent some time sitting down on the lawn at Cyan today to write a linking book so that I can sneak back there and find the secret basement where all the dunny stuff is.
I caught you in that elevator again, almost trying to get down.
We have photos.
We have photographic evidence.
Listen, I wasn't actually going to touch anything. I was just looking. Besides, the elevator is clearly a red herring, and
That's right.
And it's actually behind that little door in the other room with the I don't know what that room is actually called.
It's a whole second entrance to.
Downstairs?
Yeah, it's downstairs with the star dome thing.
Yes. Okay.
And the really big maintainer guy standing outside of the elevator going, don't touch anything. That didn't do anything for you, because he looked at me and he goes, don't touch anything. I'm like, yes, sir. I am fine. I don't
know if he was there when I was down there.
Oh, yeah, he was a really big man. He had his hands on his hips and he was like, you shall not pass. I was like, you go, Gandalf.
The interior of that building was a lot different from the last time I was there.
Really?
Yeah, so like that wall on the far side, like you come in from the stairs and you turn left and there's a wall. That wall wasn't there. That went to another stairwell that you could go back upstairs from.
Fascinating.
And the elevator, when we came out, the elevator was like right there in that room.
They knew you were coming, Dalton.
So they redesigned the whole thing.
They redesigned everything.
They changed it because they know I'm onto them.
That's the
they
only
know it's only a
reason.
matter of time before I find all that stuff.
It's the only reason they would do that, yeah.
It's the stealthy wolf bard coming to a theater near you.
Listen, I just happen to be a little bit knowledgeable about trans-universal travel and that sort of thing.
Oh no, there goes the stunt Dalkin. No.
Key mechanics.
Key mechanics, yes. Okay, sometimes there are some mishaps. Sometimes they explode. Don't ever wear your key upside down. It's okay if you wear it on the other hand, just don't wear it upside down.
Dalkin learned that the hard way.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of lessons learned through trial and error.
How do you make a wolf bard say woof? Yeah, put his key on upside down. Woof.
That'll do it. That'll do it. But we had just an absolute blast at Cyan HQ. We're so happy that the coverage today got to go back to Cyan headquarters. It's been a while since people from TCT were at Cyan headquarters. And listeners, if you have a chance to do so, visit the Cyan headquarters. It's a trip. It's a fun time. And the folks over at Cyan, they're just the nicest people in the world. They're going to treat you right, especially if you are a fan of them and love their work.
We also want to thank all of the people at the Mysterium Organizing Committee. Thank you so much for an amazing convention. The hotel is gorgeous. The room we had was fabulous. It was worth getting sick for a week from a COVID booster, but it's one of those things that, if this is on your bucket list, do it, because the Mysterium Committee does a tremendous, tremendous job.
That's right.
So
yeah,
thank you
absolutely. Thank you so much, Mysterium Committee.
We love you so much. But here we are. This was meant to be a little 10-minute addendum to our last recording.
Well
And
over an hour.
we have been recording here for damn near over an hour. So I think what we're going to do is put this as a bonus episode on the feed rather than an addendum. But either way, folks, thank you so much for joining us. We are just in such a good mood that we got to do this. And yes, if you can, make the effort to come out next time Mysterium is visiting Cyan HQ, because it's so cool, folks. For the Cavern today, this has been Morris.
Esto.
Dolgan Starbine.
And Sherry.
And we're signing off. We love you all. Take care.
See you.
Farewell.